Path to Inner Peace, a journey through mindfulness and clarity. 7 Buddhist secrets to stop overthinking and find inner peace. Before starting the video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. In the heart of a small, serene village nestled between mountains and a tranquil river, lived a man named Ayaan. Though the village was peaceful and quiet, Ayaan's mind was anything but. He was a thinker, constantly analyzing every word, every action, every possible outcome of every situation. His mind was a whirlwind, swirling with thoughts about the future, regrets about the past, and worries about things he couldn't control. No matter how hard he tried, Ayaan couldn't seem to find peace. Over time, he became weary, emotionally drained, and spiritually disconnected from the joy that once filled his life. One day, as Ayaan wandered aimlessly by the river, he encountered an old monk named Bhadrak. Bhadrak was known throughout the village for his wisdom, calm demeanor, and ability to live fully in the present moment. Intrigued by Bhadrak's serenity, Ayaan approached him. "Master Bhadrak," Ayaan began hesitantly, "I've heard people say you possess the key to inner peace. My mind is a storm, constantly overthinking, and it never rests. Can you help me find peace?" The old monk smiled gently, his eyes filled with understanding. "Ayaan, you are not alone in this struggle. Overthinking is a challenge many people face. But peace is not found by escaping your thoughts or pushing them away. Peace is found in understanding them, embracing them without attachment, and learning how to let them go." Curious, Ayaan sat beside Bhadrak on the riverbank, eager to learn. Over the next several weeks, Bhadrak shared with him 7 powerful lessons based on ancient Buddhist teachings. These lessons were not complex, but they required practice and patience. As Ayaan began to apply these teachings in his life, he started to notice a profound transformation in his mind and spirit. Lesson 1. Clear your mind by focusing on what's important. Bhadrak began by explaining the nature of thoughts. "Your mind, Ayaan, is like this river," he said, pointing to the flowing water. "It is always moving, filled with countless thoughts. But not every thought deserves your attention. Many are distractions, pulling you into worries about the past or anxieties about the future." Ayaan furrowed his brow. "But how do I know which thoughts are important?" "Focus on the thoughts that matter," Bhadrak said simply. In Buddhism, we learn that most thoughts are temporary and not always true. By recognizing which thoughts are essential and letting go of the rest, you can clear your mind. "Does this mean I should ignore my thoughts?" "No," Bhadrak replied gently. "It means you should observe them without attachment. Picture your mind as a peaceful garden. The flowers are your important thoughts. The weeds and insects are distractions. Tend to the flowers and let go of the rest." Ayaan closed his eyes, imagining his mind as a garden. He realized that much of his mental energy was spent on trivial thoughts. From that day on, he practiced focusing on what truly mattered, letting the unimportant thoughts drift away like leaves in the wind. As he cultivated this mindfulness, he found that his mind became clearer. The more he practiced, the better he became at recognizing which thoughts were worth his time and energy. Over time, his tendency to overthink began to diminish, and he felt a growing sense of peace. Lesson 2. Set a time limit for worrying. One day, Ayaan approached Bhadrak with a familiar concern. "Master, I still find myself worrying about things I can't change about the future, about mistakes I've made in the past. Even though I'm learning to focus on important thoughts, worry still creeps in." Bhadrak nodded. "Worry is a natural part of life, Ayaan, but too much of it can take over your thoughts and disturb your peace. In Buddhism, we value balance in all things, including worry. How can I balance something as overwhelming as worry?" Ayaan asked. "Set a daily time limit for your worries," Bhadrak replied. "Allow yourself 10 or 15 minutes each day to think about everything that troubles you. During this time, focus on your fears, doubts, and anxieties. But once the time is up, stop. Your mind will learn that worry is allowed, but it doesn't have to dominate your life." Ayaan was skeptical at first, but he decided to give it a try. He set aside a small portion of each day to think about his worries. At first, he found it difficult to confine his worrying to such a short time. But with practice, he began to notice something remarkable. By limiting the time he spent worrying, he gained more control over his thoughts. His mind no longer felt overwhelmed by constant anxiety, and he became more present in the moment. Over time, Ayaan found that his need to worry lessened. As he learned to let go of his fears, he discovered that most of the things he worried about were either beyond his control or not as important as they seemed. This newfound awareness brought him closer to inner peace. Lesson 3. Shift your focus to gratitude. A few weeks later, Ayaan returned to Bhadrak with a new question. "Master, I've noticed that I often dwell on what's missing in my life. I overthink about what I don't have, and it makes me unhappy. How can I change this mindset?" Bhadrak smiled knowingly. Gratitude, Ayaan. In Buddhism, we learn that the way we see the world determines our happiness. Instead of focusing on what you lack, shift your attention to what you have. But how do I do that when my mind is so used to thinking about what's missing? Start by practicing gratitude every day, Bhadrak advised. When you feel your mind drifting into overthinking, take a moment to write down a few things you are grateful for. It could be as simple as the air you breathe, the food you eat, or the presence of a loved one. Ayaan took this lesson to heart. Each morning, he began to write down 3 things he was grateful for. At first, the practice felt forced, but as the days went by, he noticed a shift in his mindset. Instead of fixating on what he didn't have, he began to appreciate the abundance already present in his life. Gratitude became a powerful tool for Ayaan. Whenever his mind started to spiral into overthinking, he grounded himself by focusing on the present moment and the blessings that surrounded him. This practice not only brought him peace, but also transformed the way he viewed the world. He no longer saw life as a series of unmet desires, but as a gift filled with countless moments of joy and contentment. Lesson 4. Accept that perfection is not necessary for peace. One day, as they sat by the river, Ayaan confided in Bhadrak about a deep-rooted struggle. Master, I often feel like nothing I do is ever good enough. I strive for perfection, but it only makes me more anxious and unhappy. How can I find peace when I'm always chasing perfection? Bhadrak chuckled softly. The pursuit of perfection, a common source of suffering. In Buddhism, we understand that perfection is an illusion. Everything in life is impermanent and constantly changing. There is no such thing as a perfect life or a perfect moment. But if I don't strive for perfection, won't I be settling for less? Not at all, Bhadrak said. Peace doesn't come from perfection. It comes from acceptance. When you accept life as it is, without trying to control or perfect everything, you open yourself to true peace. Ayaan pondered this deeply. For as long as he could remember, he had believed that happiness could only be achieved by getting everything right. But now, he began to see things differently. He realized that his perfectionism had been fueling his overthinking, constantly driving him to question every decision and outcome. With Bhadrak's guidance, Ayaan began practicing self-compassion. He learned to embrace his imperfections and accept that life is inherently messy. Instead of striving for an unattainable ideal, he focused on doing his best in each moment, without worrying about the outcome. This shift in perspective was liberating for Ayaan. He no longer felt the pressure to be perfect, and as a result, his mind became calmer. He realized that peace wasn't about achieving perfection, but about being at ease with life's imperfections. Lesson 5. Move your body to break the cycle of racing thoughts. One afternoon, Ayaan approached Bhadrak with a new concern. Master, even when I try to focus on the present, my mind sometimes races with thoughts. I can't seem to quiet it down. What can I do? Move your body, Ayaan, Bhadrak replied. The mind and body are deeply connected. When your thoughts become overwhelming, physical movement can help bring you back to the present moment. But how can movement help quiet my mind? Think of movement as a form of meditation, Bhadrak explained. In Buddhism, we practice mindful movement, whether it's walking, stretching, or even simple breathing exercises. When you focus on the sensations of your body, you naturally become more present, and your racing thoughts begin to slow down. Ayaan decided to try Bhadrak's suggestion. Each morning, he took a short, mindful walk around the village. As he walked, he focused on the feeling of his feet touching the ground, the rhythm of his breath, and the sounds of nature around him. To his surprise, he found that these walks not only calmed his mind but also brought him a sense of joy and connection to the world. The more Ayaan moved, the more he noticed the profound impact it had on his mental state. His racing thoughts became less frequent, and he felt more grounded in the present moment. He began to understand that by caring for his body, he was also caring for his mind. Lesson 6. Label your thoughts to distance yourself from them. As Ayaan continued his journey toward inner peace, Bhadrak introduced him to a new technique. Ayaan, the monk said, one of the most powerful tools in Buddhism is the practice of labeling your thoughts. When you name your thoughts, you create distance between yourself and them. What do you mean by labeling? Ayaan asked. When you find yourself overthinking, take a step back and simply name the thought. For example, if you're worried about something in the future, label the thought as worry. If you're regretting something from the past, label it as regret. By naming the thought, you recognize it for what it is, a temporary mental event, not a reflection of reality. Ayaan found this practice intriguing and began applying it in his daily life. Whenever his mind started to overthink, he paused and labeled the thoughts as they came. Worry, he would say to himself, or doubt or fear. To his amazement, the simple act of naming the thoughts helped him detach from them. He no longer felt overwhelmed by his thoughts, and instead, he observed them with curiosity and compassion. Over time, Ayaan noticed patterns in his thinking, recurring themes of fear, doubt, and perfectionism. By becoming aware of these patterns, he was able to address them more effectively and prevent them from spiraling into overthinking. This practice of labeling thoughts became a cornerstone of Ayaan's journey to inner peace. It allowed him to approach his thoughts with clarity and understanding, rather than getting lost in them. Lesson 7. Visualize a stop sign to interrupt negative thinking. One day, Ayaan confided in Bhadrak about a particularly challenging aspect of overthinking. "Master, sometimes my negative thoughts feel like they're spiraling out of control, like a runaway train. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to stop them. What should I do?" Bhadrak smiled. Visualization can be a powerful tool in moments like these. In Buddhism, we often use mental imagery to cultivate positive qualities such as calmness and compassion. I want you to try something simple. The next time your mind starts to spiral, visualize a large red stop sign. Imagine it in vivid detail and let it interrupt the flow of negative thoughts. Ayaan was skeptical, but willing to give it a try. The next time his mind began racing with anxious thoughts, he closed his eyes and pictured a bright red stop sign. To his surprise, the visualization worked. His negative thoughts came to a halt, and he felt a sense of relief. Bhadrak explained further. The stop sign is a simple reminder that you have control over your thoughts. By visualizing it, you bring yourself back to the present moment and give yourself a chance to reset your thinking. With practice, Ayaan found that this technique became an effective way to interrupt negative thinking before it spiraled out of control. The simple act of visualizing the stop sign helped him regain control of his mind and bring his focus back to the present. The journey to peace. As Ayaan continued to practice these 7 lessons, he found that his life began to change in profound ways. His mind, once consumed by overthinking, became calmer and more focused. He learned to embrace the present moment, to let go of worries and fears, and to approach life with a sense of gratitude and acceptance. One evening, as he sat by the river with Bhadrak, Ayaan reflected on his journey. "Master, I feel like I've finally found the peace I've been searching for." Bhadrak smiled. "Peace is not something you find, Ayaan. It is something you create within yourself. You have learned to cultivate peace by understanding your mind, embracing your thoughts without attachment, and letting go of what no longer serves you. Remember, this journey is ongoing. Continue to practice these teachings, and you will find that peace will always be within your reach." With a heart full of gratitude, Ayaan bowed to his teacher. He knew that the path to inner peace was not a destination, but a continuous journey. And with each step he took, he felt more connected to the present moment, more grounded in his own being, and more at peace with the world around him. As the sun set behind the mountains, Ayaan stood by the river, feeling the cool breeze on his face and the warmth of inner peace in his heart. The storm in his mind had finally subsided, replaced by the quiet stillness of clarity, understanding, and compassion. And in that stillness, Ayaan knew that he had found what he had been searching for all along. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel